If you've been following any of my videos, you know how much I stress the importance of investing in your people when it comes to coaching, when it comes to you as a manager, as a leader, in order to create an organization worth leading. However, we have to set the record straight. If your team is not effective when it comes to how it ships software, you probably do not have the privilege of focusing on those long-term improvements, because right now things are on fire all over the place and you have to get things running better. This video is going to be a crash course for helping you pinpoint the areas of the software development practices and habits in your organization to ensure that the process is effective, that the team can at least get things done faster than average, which should be like the basic requirement here. And then by getting you there, by helping you focus on those areas, solving them, and then raising the bar, you will then be able to start focusing on the other things. You will then have the ability of raising yourself to an altitude where you can actually think about those things. Right now, if you're in a quagmire of a bunch of things that aren't working because you've got bugs and you've got quality issues, etc., that's probably going to be way too hard. So let's talk about the crash course of the things that I assess quickly with new clients to see where they're having issues and pinpointing where they need to be focusing on things to improve rapidly. Again, these are going to be things that are very actionable that you can change from one day to the next. We're not talking about anything too strategic, because I want to be effective and fast so we can then move on to the things that actually matter long term. Let's get to it. By the way, if you're new here, hi, I'm Aviv Ben-Yosef. I'm a tech executive coach and consultant. I help people just like you create teams worth leading, because life's too short to lead mediocre teams. And a mediocre team is definitely one that cannot ship software when that's your purpose. So let's make sure that teams actually deliver things, and much faster than maybe you're accustomed to by now. And the first point is about planning and the alignment that's necessary. I will briefly say that planning is something that, of course, we all have to do. You have to think a bit before you start working, otherwise you're going to have things blow up in your face. However, a few things to consider right now. First, ensure that you're working at intervals that make sense. Don't plan for 6 months ahead of time. Don't plan every single week or every single day like I sometimes see. I think that iterations, when it comes to planning what we're committing to, should be at least 2 weeks long, so that teams can actually have some breathing space and you're not eating so much of the team's time in the overhead of managing and planning. Second, stop thinking that your product specs, the requirements you're getting, should be perfect, having everything detailed because you're not NASA. But on the other hand, if you're noticing that it's very lacking in a way that's actually harming the team's ability of working, you need to fix things. So yeah, what I'm giving you here is the general, it depends, because we cannot go too much into this. And if you're interested, let me know in the comments and maybe I'll have a specific video about that. But when it comes to requirements, don't expect to be perfect. Don't allow it to be too little. Find a way in between, which means that your team has to constantly be speaking with product. This is not a handoff. You give it to me and then I never speak to you again. This is a collaborative process where we have to talk to them, where your team has to have enough product context to actually understand what's happening so they can make some decisions and not expect everything to be detailed out. And even further, your team has to be giving the context, the business impact of what they're doing, so they actually understand what's happening. They're not just soldiers being given commands, but they're being given actual business results that's needed, and they're trying to come up with a way of getting there with collaboration, with product design, etc. That's the first thing. Ensure that your planning provides alignment and happens at intervals that actually make sense, that don't burn the team down, or that are just so long that whatever you're planning no longer makes sense by the time you get to it. Next, let's talk about how you actually work, how you deliver software day to day. We have to work at intervals that make sense. Again, I'm not allowing any intervals or working on a feature that's going to take more than a week or two. You have to break things down to bite-sized chunks, because we cannot work on something for a month or two without having any breakpoint in between, because usually that allows for way too many things to go wrong. because we're setting the record straight and you're not going to be working on things for too long, that means that you have to allow your team to work on those things, usually uninterrupted. Yeah, if there's a disaster, okay, we're going to be treating that. But in general, I don't want you to break people out of what they're doing every other day. If I'm working on things at intervals of about a week to get it done to a product or a feature that's actually shippable after that week, don't stop me 3 days in, because usually that means we're going to be losing a lot of time. Let people finish what they've done. You know that you're going to have the break point of changing direction once the week is done or so, and therefore don't break the cycle. Almost never, only if you really have to, ensure that people are working on things rapidly. So we're not allowing them to say, this is going to take X weeks. No, break it down so you have those breakpoints inherently, and it's a lot easier to manage it, because then people usually do not get lost. Also, in order to make sure that this works effectively in your work, assume and build into it the fact that things have to be done collaboratively, not just collaborative with product like we just talked about, but try to have teams that are end-to-end, cross-functional, so that within the same team, people have the abilities of shipping things end-to-end, A to Z, or at least create the right process and the right communication pattern so people can get things done without having to go through X managers and layers and protocols and Jira and whatever, but actually have the ability of talking directly with the other people they need in order to ship things. So if I have to talk to someone from a different team, create a specific Slack channel, create a regular sync, whatever, so that they can speak directly. There's no need to have other people involved. I've seen this happen, of course, at bigger companies, but also in quite small startups where this amount of overhead for some reason goes unnoticed. And no, we want work to be very effective and lean, which means that communication has to happen directly as much as possible. Don't think that you're protecting your people. You're just making it much harder, and you're losing so much context and agency by being there in between as a manager. A bit about code itself. We want people to be very focused, which means that we have to create the ability to work at intervals where we don't have meetings every other second, where people are working on things by themselves for as much as possible. I want to create a calendar, a schedule that allows people to focus. And we want to ensure that when we're doing that, those people have the ability of moving faster. So for example, if I need help, we can create a support system that's, for example, let's say office hours. I know when I can ask other people in the team for help, as opposed to always having someone drop on you and say, hey, I need this, I need that, out of nowhere, ruining your groove, ruining your focus. Create an atmosphere that allows people to collaborate, but at certain times. So that's a lot healthier than having a mishmash where everyone can ask anyone at any certain period of time just because I have a question. No, create something that allows people to focus, but also that allows people to help one another. Don't allow scope creep when it comes to engineers adding too many things, but also don't be too strict. What am I talking about? I do believe we need to have the Boy Scout rule. Allow people the ability of fixing things a bit as they're working, because I'm already there, I might as well make it tidier. However, we need a clear and concise limit here. You can allow it to, for example, something that's going to take an hour, all of a sudden I'm taking 3 more hours just to refactor something, make it look nice or whatever. That doesn't make sense. We need to define like a sort of amount of freedom that your people have, be it an hour or two extra doing something because they want to tidy it up, as opposed to never having the ability of changing anything. I've seen companies where people were reprimanded for touching code that wasn't specifically what needed to be done because we're always running. Yeah, if there's something on fire, okay, don't tidy it up. But in general, I do believe you need to be able to tidy things up, have the Boy Scout rule working for you, and you need to create the right etiquette in the team for people to understand when it's possible, how much, when do I actually need to ask for permission to do the extra bit or not, that sort of stuff, so that the team keeps creating things that are getting better as opposed to digging themselves deeper into a hole because we never make things look better, or because we always do too much and do too much tech for tech's sake taking too much of our time. And of course, if we're talking about coding, code reviews, this is something that often we need to review. Yeah, we review the reviews to ensure that we're doing them effectively. Reviews don't need to just be a rubber stamp, yeah, sure, and it never finds anything. And also, it doesn't need to be painstakingly nitpicking process where we find every little thing. It takes ages. You have to wait so long. You have to strike the right balance of how much time and effort you're putting into this. And that means thinking about what you are getting out of them. Review your reviews and think, are they finding what we want them to find? Is the time investment actually giving us a good ROI? Are we seeing what we want to see from them? If not, talk about it as a team and decide how to do things differently. Focus on specific things, put a time limit on it, whatever you need to do in order to get more out of those code reviews as opposed to having them be time not well spent. Make it something that people actually look forward to. I want to see what comments I've got. Not, oh my God, I'm seeing the thread, I'm already feeling nervous, but I know that what I'm going to be finding there is stuff that's going to help me. As the code is prepared, give or take. Now we need to talk about the CI and how you get it out. You have to have a test suite that you're proud of, that you can count on, that's consistent, that gives you some trust, that gives you some ability of, peace of mind, that the test suite has passed, so things are probably going to be okay. Without that, you're working blind. You're spending often too much time checking that things work as opposed to just creating new things and shipping them. So have the basic amount of testing. Whenever you see something major not working and it surprises you, create the test in order to find those issues so that you never have to go through the same process again, and do this regularly. Ensure that testing is something that's routinely baked into your work, so it's not an effort that you do from time to time, but something that every time that we're working on something major, at least if you're not working with testing every single feature, at least bake in the test for the bigger things so that you have that safety net. Without it, you cannot work effectively. And this relates to areas like configuration management. If you have good feature toggles, you will be able to ship things with less testing and less stress because you can allow yourself to just turn things on for the employees of the company first, for specific lines, etc. So it's not that dangerous and you can roll it back quickly. Of course, you also need to have good rollback mechanisms in general, not just in feature toggles. So if you did something wrong, it is quicker to undo, which again gives people that safety net. With good safety nets, I'm going to be going much faster because I'm not afraid for my life with every single step. I know it's going to be fine most of the time, even if I fall. Okay, there's a safety net there. People are going to laugh a bit, but nothing meaningful has happened. We can just recover. Have that baked into it. Similarly, when it comes to deployments, give people the tools to be able to find issues and fix them quickly. Is your logging actually helpful? Do you have good tracing? Do you have the ability to see what's happening when it comes to analytics, etc., so that when something is wrong, we can find it fast. We can notice it, hopefully even before clients, but when clients tell you that something has happened, you can find it quickly, you can reproduce it so that your team can be effective. Again, if we're not doing that, it means that every single error becomes very costly, which then makes so many teams work much slower because they're afraid of shipping. They're having to do all of these testing rigorously as opposed to having the ability of spotting an issue and fixing it quickly. And when I see teams regularly wasting entire nights debugging things because their tooling sucks, I'm like, okay, how about we take a day and invest a bit in that so that next time that it happens, it doesn't require you 4 hours to get those logs. You can just get it immediately. That sort of stuff can really turn things around. It'll help teams move much faster, even though we're not talking about pure feature work, even though we're not talking about things that maybe connect immediately to your day-to-day. But once things are actually on fire, this matters, and in the back of your mind, you're going to be knowing that. You're going to be noticing it and you're going to be fearing it until you have that safety net. Again, safety nets are a repeating motive here. To make people go fast, we need to create an environment that allows them to go fast without fearing for their lives. And lastly, in this crash course, there's learning. We have to close the loop. We're going to be finding out so much as we're shipping software. The question is, how are we getting better? And this is something that goes unnoticed with so many teams. Yeah, you maybe have the retro in the calendar, but it's usually a nothing sandwich. It's just an hour that goes to waste if you're actually even holding the meeting. But the best teams I work with make learning a major point. And so every retro is actually some meeting that has real tangible action items. We actually review what we did and why did we do that feature if it turned out to be that much more complex. Why did no one say, hey, maybe we need to change plans? Why did that bug slip by? What does it mean? Does it mean that the code review wasn't good? Do we need a different sort of test? What's going on there? Let's ensure, if we notice that there was a hole in the safety net, let's learn from it, spot it, think what are we going to be doing differently to close that hole so next time we have that safety restored. And also there's the concept of impact retrospectives, meta retrospectives that actually talk about what we did, what we shipped, and what we learned from it. Are we actually moving the needle like we hope to? I have a different video specifically about that, and it will probably be somewhere here on screen. And all of these things are, for me, the basics of creating a foundation for delivering software effectively. And if you notice that you're lacking in one of these, you probably need to prioritize it over essentially everything else, because it will almost immediately make your team much faster, and each one of these can be improved upon at a day's notice. This is not something that requires months of work. It is something that you can see major improvement in from this day to the next one, from this week to the next. So make sure to focus on each one of these right now, one by one, if you notice that they're lacking, because it's really going to pay off. If you need any help with that, let me know. My email's in the video description, or write to me in the comments. I'll be very happy to hear. That's it for this video. Thank you. I'm reminding you, if you got to this point, to like and subscribe because it really helps me. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and check the video description for my regular newsletter, but also a free email course that I've got. That's the Tech Exec Roadmap, where if you sign up, you're going to get every day a short description of a skill for you as a leader to work on. So we just had a crash course for software engineering, but what about you as a leader? So you can get that for free as well. And one last ask, if you got so far in the video, I've got one single question survey link in the video description that's really going to help me gauge interest in the Rome sessions I'm going to be holding. What to do here physically in Rome, because I'd like to meet more of you. So fill that. It's going to take you half a minute and it will really help me out. Thank you, and I'll see you here in the next video.